Sunday, everyone. Welcome. If you have not already, go to My Adventures in ESL and download the newcomer. Well, it's not really a newcomer. It's a curriculum guide for you. So if you have not already, go to www.myadventuresinESL and download the guide. Okay. If you haven't already, I would love to see how everyone's feeling this morning. So in the comments, just leave an emoji, a comment, however you're feeling this morning. I would love to know. It has been a busy couple of weeks. Let's see. First, we had WIDA testing. This is our last week of WIDA testing. Thank you, goodness. Last week. And then Facebook broke. And last week I had the pleasure of going to TESOL conference, and I'll give you all an update and a little quick review of everything that I did there. Today I'm going to talk about how I created independence in my classroom with my ELLs. And I'm just going to give you all some quick tips today on how to do that and how it completely transformed my classroom, and I wanted to transform yours as well. So if you haven't already, we haven't met, or it's your first time, my name's Millie. I have been an ESL teacher for about 6 years now, and I am a peer coach, and I also help with and assist with writing the curriculum for our school district. And I'm just really happy to be here with you all today. So as I mentioned last week, I had the pleasure of going to the TESOL conference. And I went a Friday and Saturday. Last year I went pretty much the whole week, and I was so overwhelmed with everything. I mean, it was just, I wish I could just show you all the book. I mean, it's a book about this thick of like all of the conferences, not all the conferences, but all of the presentations that are happening and everything. So I went in, I did not plan for it, and I was like, yeah, I just pick whatever looks good. And it was, it wasn't one of my best conference moments because I didn't know what to go to. So this year I actually looked at the planner and planned out each session that I was going to go to, and it went a lot smoother this year. On Friday, I just attended the last day. And then on Saturday, I attended the pre-K through 12 ticketed session, which was amazing. Some big takeaways that I learned on Friday was the TED Talk. And so I'm going to start doing that in my classroom, specifically in my intervention class. And in the presentation, it was through National Geographic, but they basically talked about how they use TED Talks to promote speaking, listening, reading, and writing in their classroom. And they even gave these really cool lesson plans. I'm going to have to link to them. They said it's free for ESL teachers, so I'm going to see if I can find the link in the packet and link to it for you all. And then I learned so much on the pre-K through 12 day and picked up some really valuable tips. The first one that I picked up was what they call swirl, which is SWRL. And the presenter just was asking, did you all swirl today? And she asked her students that. And swirl stands for, did you speak? Did you write? Did you read? And did you listen? Did you swirl today in class? And I love that. So I cannot wait to make a poster for that and share it with you all and share it with my students. And another big takeaway that I got was using WIDA access scores to set SMART goals. I did something similar at the beginning of the school year with my students, and I realized just these couple of weeks ago how powerful that was. I mean, the students went into access testing serious. You should have seen them. They were like, you know what? I have this score, and I know I need to make this score to make my goal. So they were a lot more serious about it than I've seen previously. And I think a big reason was with me, and with not just me, but the students and I sitting down and setting goals and really talking about where they need to go with this. So I cannot wait to implement that in my classroom. And another big takeaway was ELLs and the gifted program. These past couple of years, I have had ELLs that come in that were gifted. And a struggle has been is getting them in the gifted program because they may have a language barrier. And so learning how to go about getting ELLs placed in a gifted program was just life-changing for me and my students, and I can't wait to start implementing those practices. And my biggest piece of advice, if you go to TESOL next year, plan. As soon as they release those sessions, look at the book, see what you want to do, and plan it out. And so that way you won't be overwhelmed when you get there, because they have so many sessions. And so like I said today, what we're going to talk about is how I created independence in my classroom. I can remember back to my first year of teaching and simply being so overwhelmed and so, the best word is frustrated, because my students were always like, teacher, can I get a pencil? Teacher, can I go to the bathroom? Teacher, what do I do next? And it was always just these constant questions of what do I do next? The students were confused about what to do. And so I was like, I am really tired of them being dependent on me. I want to create independent learners. I want them to go out and I want them to say, hey, I already know what to do next. So I'm going to walk you all through some tips of things that I did in my classroom to create this independence with my students. So I'm going to switch over to a PowerPoint, and I'm just going to walk you all through some things that I did. So let's go here. Now, let's see. And thank you all for being patient. So, I thought this was like the cutest little clip art. So I wanted to include it. But we're going to walk through how I created independence in my classroom. And I'm also going to show you some things that I create at the beginning of the school year, like 3 years ago, that honestly that I still use. So the first thing in creating independence for your students is you want to establish clear expectation with your students. And for you to be able to establish the expectations, you need to know what those expectations are. So start the year by you setting clear expectations for your students. And what does this mean? So basically, you first need to brainstorm what you want your class to look like. How do you want them to behave during group work? How do you want them to behave when it's time to transition? How do you want them to sharpen their pencils? And I am telling you, if you teach any secondary, middle, I don't know about elementary, but definitely middle and high school, they will irk you to the depths of your soul with that pencil sharpener. So you need to really think about what you want your students to do and start formulating some expectations for them. And I'll show you an example of how I did that after this PowerPoint. So I wanted to also show you some examples. So I'm on Pinterest, and I followed this lady, and she had this little anchor chart in her classroom about the pencil sharpener. And this is how she is setting her expectations with her students of, okay, I'm teaching right now, should you be going to the pencil sharpener, right? And so when the students know, they know to go over, they have a visual for them, and they know, you know what, maybe I should not sharpen my pencil right now. This is not the expectation my teacher is setting. And here's an example I use for my group work. I have a poster, and before we start group work, I set expectations with the students. I talk through them like, this is your group work time. I don't expect you as a student to be sitting off and working by yourself. My expectation for you is that you are giving thoughtful feedback. You're respecting people in your group. You're offering your thoughts. You're using soft voices. You're participating and staying focused. So I created this anchor chart for them so they can refer to this is my expectation of how you all are to behave in your group work. Once you do that, you need to establish these routines. And you establish these routines, when you establish routines, you're not putting out what I call those teacher fires, right? So if you're trying to do something with one student, another student comes and says, teacher, what do I do next? I'm finished. I'm done. That's what they say. I'm done. You're not putting out those little fires, because if you're working with a student and a student raises their hand and they say, I'm done, I say, okay, what do you do when you're done? And I have a routine and a procedure in place for that student that when they're done, they know exactly what they need to do. So that allows me as a teacher to do what I need to do with other students. That whether if I'm working in a small group, if I'm taking attendance, if I am conferencing with students, if the students are clear about the routines and what to do next, that allows you to do what you need to do around the classroom. And most importantly, it's creating independence. You're thinking ahead and you're saying, okay, I know the students are going to say I'm done. So let me put a procedure in place for those students who get done early. I know the students may ask me, can I go to the bathroom? What procedure am I putting in place for those students who need to go to the bathroom? And so you need to be thinking about this even with your English language learners. And most importantly, you need to practice, and practice. Cannot stress this enough. Once you set your expectations, it is so important at the beginning of the year and throughout the year that you take time to practice with your ELLs. It can be as simple as you modeling the behavior and the class actually practice the behaviors. I love using anchor charts throughout the school year with my students. That way they can constantly reference it if they get stuck. I say, hey, and I tell them, straight up at the beginning of the year, I'm going to take the time, I'm going to do my part as a teacher and show you what the expectations are. However, if you forget, 3-4 weeks later, I'm going to reference you to this anchor chart. And I also tell them, and if I notice it's an issue with the whole class that they're lacking, I say, okay, let's time out. Let's take about 3-4 minutes and let's reestablish these expectations, how I want you to act. It will save you so much time. I know you're probably thinking, oh, I got to take 5 minutes out of my lesson. But taking those 5 minutes right then and there can save you hours. So if you see that your students are struggling with practicing those procedures and those routines, take a moment, say, hey class, I see this is a struggle for us right now. I just want to go ahead and let's reestablish these procedures. Let's reestablish these routines and let's practice again. And use an anchor chart constantly if you have to pull it out as a reference. A good example is I have flexible seating in my classroom, so I don't have traditional chairs and desks. And I have one student, he is constantly standing on the wobble stool. And I'm like, hey, you're going to fall. I referenced the anchor chart. Hey, you're going to fall. And if I have to tell you again to put your feet on the floor, you will be sitting in the desk for the remainder of the school year or the remainder of the week. Okay? So just make sure those are the things I want to stress with you. And so what I'm going to do now is I am going to show you all my procedures and my routines that I created about a year ago. Not a year ago, 3 years ago. It happened. I realized that I was like, you know what? I am struggling. I am really struggling. So I need to create these procedures and routines for my students. So where are they? Okay. So it happened to me, and I realized this at the end of the school year. I could never forget. I always tell this story. There's this amazing teacher in my building, and the students they had her before they had me. And they would always come down to my room and ask to sharpen the pencil. And I'm like, you all, why are you all not sharpening your pencil in the other teacher's classroom? And they were like, oh, she has, and they said it. They was like, her procedures are, she doesn't let us sharpen the pencil. If we don't have a pencil, we have to borrow it from a friend. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it was like a light bulb went off. It took me a whole year for that light bulb to go off. But I realized then in that moment, I needed procedures too. I was a new teacher and I didn't realize that I needed procedures in the classroom. I know it sounds crazy, but when you come from an environment, I came from corporate, the procedures were already in place for me. And so it didn't dawn on me as a new teacher to the end of the school year that, oh, I as a new teacher, I am the teacher. I am the one responsible for structuring and setting the procedures in place. So that summer I sat down, I was like, okay, I need a procedure for every single thing that I can think of. And so I started brainstorming some procedures. Now, I even walked through, as you can see, I was like, okay, the first thing I want the students to do is I want them to come into the classroom, right? And when they come into the classroom, what are my expectations? What do I want them to do? And my expectations were I want them to come in, sign the attendance sheet. I don't want them asking me, what do I need? That is another one of my teacher pet peeves, asking me, what do I need? I want them to read the board for whatever materials they need. I want them to read their message in the morning, and I want them to immediately start on their bell work. And it may be a do now or a bell ringer, depending on where you are. Then I was like, okay, I know that, because I had an attendance sheet before, I know in middle school, they want to cover for their friends. So I was like, one of my expectations is sign the attendance sheet every day that you're here, and do not sign ahead, because they were signing ahead, or sign for someone else. And I practiced these things with them. I was at the beginning of the year, I told the class, we're going to practice coming into the room. We're going to practice signing the attendance sheet. Another big thing is going to the bathroom. I mean, I saw the funniest meme about, they call it bath-a-lunch, right? One student wants to go, and then everybody wants to go to the bathroom. And that was a problem as a new teacher that I was having. I was just letting them come and go. And I realized, I was like, okay, I need a procedure for when they go to the bathroom. And so I have, until this day, I still have this going to the bathroom sign. I tell them, when the sign is green, you go to the bathroom. I'm wanting to create independence with them. And as adults, we don't usually raise our hand and ask our boss, hey, principal so-and-so, can I go to the bathroom? You know, it's a little harder as teachers, but as adults, when we want to go to the bathroom, we go to the bathroom. And I wanted to create that kind of independence in my classroom. And so I told the students, and we practiced, when the sign is green, you go to the bathroom. But if it's red, you need to wait. We're in an important part of our lesson right now, and I need you to listen to what I have to say, and then I'll turn it green and you go to the bathroom. Now, I tell them, I'm like, do not ask me if it's red. If you ask me, the answer is going to be an automatic no. And I had to be really, really, really consistent with that. But if it's green, just simply sign out and go. Now, that's something that you can implement with your students, and it's a great way to create independence with them. Also, checking for supplies. One of the ways I wanted to create independence was I didn't want them constantly, when they came in the room, asking me for supplies. Like, Miss Williams, what do I need today? And I'm like, okay, you need a pencil, you need a paper, you may need scissors. I wanted to be clear up front with them what they needed, and they didn't have to ask me. So I have a materials board for them. So here, these are just some examples that I use in my classroom of fostering and creating independence with my ELLs. And I would love to know how you all are creating independence with your ELLs. Now, what are you doing? So let me switch back. Oops. Oh, hey, I'm trying to fiddle with it, so it's already here. Okay, so I would love to know how you all are creating independence with your ELLs, and what's working and what's not working, and I would love to give you all some feedback, so leave that in the comments. If you have not already, make sure you subscribe and follow. I would love for you to subscribe and follow. Also, if you have not, go to My Adventures in ESL and download the ELL tips. It is a guide for you that will walk you through the school year of some lesson ideas and things that you can do with your ELLs on all levels, just not newcomers. You can use it for newcomers, but it will benefit your long-term ELLs and your beginner ELLs and intermediates as well. So go to myadventuresinESL.com and download the ELL tips and the guide. And I want to let you all know, thank you all for stopping in with me today. I really, really enjoyed you. And remember, I would love to hear how you all are creating independence in your classroom with your ELLs. So once again, thank you. drop a comment in the comment box, and you'll hear from me soon. And I'm looking forward to hear from you. Bye, and see you soon.